Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Mindy here. I hope you had an amazing weekend and you're doing very, very well. Today I'm feeling a little bit congested. I'm not feeling great, but I could not miss the opportunity to talk about fragrance, and this is a topic I'm really excited to talk about. Specifically Tom Ford Lost Cherry and what alternatives exist out there. Now, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know I've gone back and forth, really trying to figure out if I'm going to buy a full bottle of Tom Ford Lost Cherry or move forward with one of the dupes. So my challenge has been being willing to spend $500 for 100 mils of fragrance. That is an extraordinarily high price, and recently Sheree Lewis had mentioned the cosmetics company as an alternative. So I did make a trip down to my local cosmetics company, and sadly they did not have this fragrance there. I think the price point would have been closer to $250, so it's around 50% off. They did inform me that they had it in Missouri at a store. They gave me the number. The customer service was exceptional. I reached out and they had a hard time processing my gift cards that I had available. So what did I do? I went forward because minutes later I had heard that there was a sale at Aura Fragrances, and so I bought Pas de Soie and Gris Charnel with those gift cards instead. So here I am, Tom Ford Lost Cherry-less, and I want to share my thoughts with you on several substitutes, alternatives, dupes, clones that I've been playing with a little bit, and let you know my thoughts. Is Tom Ford Lost Cherry one that you need a full bottle of, or can you move forward with one of the alternatives? Without further ado, let's jump right in. So since this video is centered around Tom Ford Lost Cherry, I wanted to start with Tom Ford Lost Cherry. Now this is about my third sample. I've been playing with it for quite some time. I do love the scent profile. There's a cherry liqueur feel to this one. It has a sweet, boozy nuttiness in this fragrance that I find really intoxicating. For me, the cherry and cinnamon in here, and there are a lot of other notes that make this a beautiful composition, but the cherry and cinnamon are what really brings it together, at least the sweet and the spiciness that I get here. I love how it's done. I love how this composition comes together. It's a beautiful scent and one that I've wanted to get for quite some time. I love the scent profile, and that's why I've gone back and forth on this one for so long. I also think Lost Cherry is really perfect for fall weather, going into winter weather. It has that sweetness, that booziness, a lot of those qualities that I really love in a cool weather scent. So the first alternative that I have here for Lost Cherry is Cherry Punk, and this is by Room 115. Now I have it right here on my arm, so I'm going to smell it to remind me what it smells like. This one has been on my radar for quite some time as well. A lot of times when I go look up Tom Ford Lost Cherry, this one comes up as an alternative, and I think it's a really fun scent. Now for this fragrance, I really do think you have to like leather. I think you have to like some smokiness in your perfumes, because that smokiness that I get from this one, that leather that's in this one, are very prominent notes. They mix with the cherry to smell very nice, but for me that initial burst of cherry that you get from Cherry Punk does dissipate just a little bit, and leather really becomes the center accord for me. Of all of the fragrances that I have here, I do find Cherry Punk to be the least feminine. Now that's to say that most of these are rated feminine. A lot of people seem to think Tom Ford Lost Cherry and some of the other dupes that I have here lean feminine. For me, this one might be a little bit more on the masculine side. I think anyone can wear anything, and I also think Lost Cherry and the other dupes and clones that I have here are perfectly unisex. Anyone can wear them, but to most people it seems like they get rated as leaning more feminine. I do think Cherry Punk is a great standalone fragrance. I think for somebody who is looking for that Lost Cherry scent profile, I don't think you're exactly going to get that here. Like I said, the leather and the smokiness in this fragrance are really standout notes to me. And in this one, you seem to lose a little bit of that almond nuttiness. You lose a little bit of that cherry sweetness, that fruitiness that you get in Lost Cherry. So if you're looking for something quite close to Lost Cherry, I don't think this is it. But I do think this is a fun standalone fragrance. It has a lot of character. I do think a lot of people would like this one, and this one seems to get really great ratings. So if you're interested in those accords in your fragrances, I definitely recommend checking out Cherry Punk by Room 1015. The next fragrance that I have here today is Fructus Virginis by the House of Alexandria Fragrances. So right off the bat, I do find Lost Cherry and Fructus Virginis to be a little bit different. I do have it sprayed here on my skin. I have all of these sprayed on my skin in different places, and I resprayed them about 10 minutes ago. They had been on my skin for 5 hours, so I could make sure I was familiar with the longevity of each of these, and so this one has been resprayed here. Now at the onset of Fructus Virginis, I do find that it is more sour. It does start off quite different from Lost Cherry in my opinion. It is more sour. It seems to lack a little bit of that depth that you get from the original Lost Cherry fragrance. I don't feel like I'm getting, maybe it's the Peru balsam, some of that amberiness, some of that booziness, some of the cherry richness seems to be missing from the Alexandria Fragrances version at the onset of the perfume. Now, as this one dries down on the skin, settles into the skin, maybe after about 45 minutes, I do find that Fructus Virginis does start to smell a whole lot more like Lost Cherry. As it's on the skin, I think that cherry presence is more noticeable, it evolves, and they become a little bit more challenging to differentiate to my nose. It's kind of funny because analyzing fragrances like these, having different fragrances on your skin, playing around with them, sniffing them side by side can really start to mess with your mind a little bit. And if I was smart, I would probably incorporate more coffee beans into this scientific, technical analysis that I do. But honestly, fragrances start to smell and they seem to blend, they merge a little bit after some time, but I can still sense some differences on my skin after wearing them for a while. Before I resprayed them, I could tell that Fructus Virginis was still sort of maintaining a little bit of that sour vibe. That sourness seems to kind of stay throughout the wear of the fragrance, and I don't think Fructus Virginis exactly captures the very same cherry booziness, that same almond nuttiness that you find in Lost Cherry, but I do think it comes quite close. I feel personally that you'd have to be very, very familiar with Tom Ford Lost Cherry and really be able to recognize those subtle differences between the two fragrances. I think for most people, the Fructus Virginis Alexandria fragrance version probably comes fairly close to Tom Ford Lost Cherry, and I would give this dupe, this clone, around a 7.5. Now honestly, after I played with this one for some time, I do find that the Fructus Virginis seems to be the one that has the best longevity. So if longevity is what you're going for, the Alexandria fragrance version might be the right one for you. The last fragrance that I have here is Pop Cherry by the Dua brand, I hate the name, and this is probably the one that comes the closest to Tom Ford Lost Cherry to me. Now, I say that with a little bit of a disclaimer. This one has a very powerful cherry scent to it. This one has almost a juicy, prominent, almost syrupy, sticky type cherry feel to it. And I noticed that this one actually has cherry extract in it. I didn't see that note in any of the other fragrances, and I sort of wondered if that's what gives it that syrupy feel. But if you're looking for a very cherry-forward, cherry-centered fragrance, this might be the best option for you out of all of these. I do think the Dua brand has done a really nice job of capturing that almond nuttiness that you get in the original Tom Ford Lost Cherry. I also think they do a really nice job of capturing the booziness as well. But I do think you have to be willing to have that cherry note be kind of front and center and the most prominent accord in this fragrance if you are going to move forward with a full bottle. In all of the other fragrances that I've tried, the cherry is just a little bit more subtle, and here it is very noticeable. I also think of all of the fragrances that I'm looking at here, this is probably the one that leans maybe the most feminine because of that noticeable cherry note and that cherry accord in here. But again, I would very much say that each and every one of these is a unisex fragrance and anyone can wear it. Overall, I think Pop Cherry by the Dua brand is a great interpretation of the original Lost Cherry. I would probably give this one about an 8.5 out of 10. I really like the sweetness. I like how the cherry is done here. I do like that you still get that almond nuttiness. You still get that booziness in this fragrance. And I also think that the price point is very acceptable here. I don't think any one of these that I've spoken about today is identical to Lost Cherry, so I do think there are certain slight nuances that each one of these fragrances has, but I also think they all smell great. I like each and every one of them. The only one I might not move forward with a full bottle of is Cherry Punk. It's just a little bit different. It's one I need to get a little bit more familiar with. It's less of the cherry, more of that smoky, leathery accord, but it's also a great fragrance and I can see why so many people like it. Alright guys, that rounds out my comparison of all of these cherry fragrances. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Please let me know what you guys are trying. What are the cherry fragrances that you like the most? What do you think compares the best to Tom Ford Lost Cherry? And what have you brought into your collection? I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week and you have a lot to be grateful and thankful for. Until next time, I'll see you soon.